delighted to be here. I study love. I'm a biological anthropologist. I've put, with my colleagues, put 49 people who are madly in love into a functional MRI brain scanner. The first group had just fallen in love. The next group had just been dumped. And the third group kept telling me that they were still in love in a long-term relationship, 20 years or more. So it's going to be somewhat the story of that. But I'm going to broaden it out and talk about two of the most powerful social worldwide trends and the impact that those two trends are making on sex, romance, family life, and human happiness. The two great, powerful worldwide social trends that I've seen in the last 100 years are women piling into the paid job market and the aging world population. So the first one, I looked in 130 societies of the demographic yearbooks of the United Nations, and women are slowly closing the gap with men in terms of economic power, health, and literacy. In 129 of these cultures, at the last I looked, Afghanistan was slipping back, but all the others, in one way or another, were moving forward. For every trend, there's a counter trend. Religion sets people back and cultures back. Warfare can set cultures back. But as the Arab aphorism goes, the dogs may bark, but the caravan moves on. Women are moving into the paid labor force. This is not new. We're actually moving forward to being the kinds of women in the kinds of culture that we were a million years ago. A million years ago, women commuted to work to gather their fruits and vegetables. They came home with 60 to 80% of the evening meal. The double-income family was the rule, and women were just as economically and socially and sexually powerful as men. About 10,000 years ago, we began to settle down. So at some point, somebody invented the plow, and with the beginning of plow agriculture, men's roles became that of moving the rocks, felling the trees, plowing the land, and bringing the produce off to a local market and coming home with the equivalent of money. Women's became relegated to the secondary jobs of picking, weeding, pruning, preparing the evening meal, and having lots of babies with little fingers to pick the vegetables. And they could no longer leave the farm or come home with the evening meal. And when you take a look across farming societies, our background, you see that women have lost their economic power. They've lost their sexual and social power too. And it was with this, our heritage, that we evolved the various traditions that we've had for the last 10,000 years. The belief that women are less intelligent than men, less competent than men, less sexual than men. I'm always astonished me. That virginity at marriage, if you go into a hunting and gathering society and you try to explain to them virginity at marriage, they're likely to just shake their heads. The belief that men are the head of the household, and arranged marriages. You know, in hunting and gathering society, a woman and a man often had 2 to 3 spouses during the course of their life. In our agrarian background, you have to marry for life. You cannot divide up half the cow or take half the vegetables and move them out of town. Marriage was a way to cement all kinds of social, political, and economic relationships, and it had to be till death do us part. Then with the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, men and women began to leave the farm for factory work. By the end of the 1900s, 19th century, about 16% of women were in the job market in America, probably about the same in most of Europe. But they went home when they married and had babies. It really wasn't until after World War I that we see the rise of the modern business community, a community that actually needs some of the skills of women as well as men, their linguistic skills, their people skills, but also the rise of all kinds of technologies so that women didn't have to make the blankets and make the socks and make the candles. They had time to get an education, they had time to work, and indeed we see them piling into our modern business world. What's really interesting to me is 50 years ago a woman would go into the workforce and then she would leave the workforce to have a family. These days, they're giving up the family in order to work. In short, we're shedding 10,000 years of our farming background and returning to a lifestyle that is tremendously, that is very similar to the lifestyle we had millions of years ago. I think this one thing is going to, and already has begun to, have an enormous impact on human family life and also on happiness. The second major world trend is the aging world population. As a matter of fact, a lot of medical people are shocked when an anthropologist tells them that the human lifespan has never changed. The issue is that more and more people are living up to that advanced age these days. And one demographer in America has said that we should now regard middle age as up to age 85. He's a little optimistic, I think, but he's coming from the concept that in this highest age cohort, age 75 to 84, only 40% of people have nothing really wrong with them. They might have bad knees or poor teeth or bad eyesight, but there's nothing really wrong with them. And now today with Viagra and estrogen replacement and testosterone patches and hip replacements, men and women can express their sexuality all through this long middle age. And older people are now no longer expected to live with their children. They don't move in with their children the way they did 50 years ago, or 250 years ago, or 5,000 years ago. They live alone, they travel, they're expected to date, and we're seeing more and more romance and deep remarriage and attachment among older people too. In short, working women and our long middle age are having an enormous impact on our social lives. So where are we headed? Where will the family be in 50 years, 100 years? And what does this have to do with happiness? Well, I want to start out with what will not change. Shakespeare once asked, he said, "What 'tis to love?" I think we've been wondering what love is since our ancestors lay and watched the stars a million years ago. There's much of love that will not change. I don't actually use the word love very often because it means so many different things to so many different people. Instead, I think of it in terms of three distinctly different brain systems. Those for sex, drive, lust, the second, romantic love, and the third, deep feelings of attachment. Lust, cravings for sexual gratification. W.H. Auden called it an intolerable neural itch. Pablo Neruda called it an infinite ache. It's associated with testosterone in both men and women. It's got no object to it. Often you can feel the sex drive when you are just driving along in your car. The second of these three brain systems is romantic love, passionate love, obsessive love, being in love, infatuation, no matter what you call it. It's got the same basic set of characteristics. Suddenly a person takes on special meaning to you. As one man said to me, he said, "The world had a new center, and that center was Mary Ann." George Bernard Shaw said it differently. He said, "Love consists of overestimating the differences between one woman and another." And indeed, we do. Then you focus on them. That's dopamine. Intense energy. Can walk all night, talk till dawn. Mood swings, horrible dependence on this person. Before I put these people in the MRI machine, I asked them an awful lot of questions. These machines are very expensive and it's very time-consuming. And my most important question was, how often do you think of this person? What percentage of the day? And they say all the time. It's an obsession. I think it's a drive. It comes out of parts of the brain associated with drive.